The story opens with a married couple driving through the remote outback of Australia. In the middle of their journey, their vehicle suddenly comes to an abrupt stop after nearly hitting a rabbit. As the couple begins arguing about the incident, a group of wild boars suddenly runs across the road, leaving them even more confused. However, just as they are about to continue their journey, their vehicle is suddenly attacked by something they cannot clearly see.
Something startled them. Okay, right, let's get out of here.
Time later, a family consisting of Bruce, his wife Debbie, their children Bart and Ella's boyfriend Robert, is shown traveling by road. They are heading out to visit their uncle Bernie, who owns a farm located outside the city. After a long journey, they finally arrive at Bernie's place. Bernie immediately greets Bruce's family with great joy and excitement. Later that night, a farmer who is resting in his barn discovers that his pet dog has gone missing. While attempting to investigate the source of a strange sound, his foot accidentally gets caught near a barbed wire fence.
Whiskey, come here, boys!
However, the attack by the creature remains unknown to the local residents. The terror returns once again the following night. At another location, a young couple named Ryan and Hannah is seen resting inside a camping tent. Not far from the campsite, two farmers named Ken and Blue are relaxing nearby. The two farmers begin to feel suspicious about the unauthorized campsite. Determined to find out what the people there are doing, Ken and Blue decide to go and check it out. However, before they reach the location, the young couple has apparently already been killed by a mysterious creature. Hearing the sound of screams, Ken and Blue immediately rush toward the site. Upon arriving, Ken witnesses the figure of a gigantic wild boar that has completely trashed the campsite. Because he has been drinking too much, Ken then hands his rifle to Blue and tells him to shoot the animal. Unfortunately, the shot misses its target and instead causes the creature to disappear. When they attempt to inspect the area more closely, they discover the lifeless bodies of the two teenagers. According to Ken, there are 2 tents at the campsite, which means there should have been more than just 2 people there. To find the remaining 2 individuals, Ken and Blue decide to split up. Blue plans to return to their vehicle to retrieve more ammunition, while Ken searches the surrounding area for the missing teenagers. Sadly, along the way, Ken instead encounters the creature. Meanwhile, the other couple Ken is searching for turns out to be inside the forest. A man named Matthew is seen telling horror stories to his girlfriend, Sherry. Not long afterward, Matthew suddenly hears a suspicious sound coming from behind the trees. Driven by curiosity, he uses his flashlight to follow the direction of the sound. But unfortunately, just as he finishes and turns around, a short while later, Ken arrives at the location and finds Matthew dead, while Sherry is discovered in critical condition. Realizing that the monster is still lurking in the area, Ken attempts to lure it out. It does not take long before the creature suddenly emerges from behind the trees and chases Ken, eventually cornering him and attacking. In a state of desperation, Ken then pulls out a knife and prepares for his final stand.
Come on, you piece of shit!
The next day, Bernie plans to take Bruce and his family on a trip to enjoy several places in the countryside. Once everyone is ready, they set off. Along the way, they stop briefly at a shop owned by Ken to purchase some supplies. After stepping out of the vehicle, Bernie meets Sasha, Ken's child. Sasha, knowing that Bernie is planning to travel around the area, asks for his help in finding her father. She explains that Ken has not returned since the previous night, after saying goodbye to go hunting.
Bernie, I mean it!
Work, sis!
Long story short, after spending time playing with his family by the river, Bernie remembers Sasha's request to search for her father. He then sets off and arrives at the site of the previous night's incident.
Oh, the party is jumping. Time to go.
However, before he can find any sign of his friend, the sound of a loud crash is heard all the way to where Bruce and his family are. Concerned about Bernie's condition, Bruce takes the initiative to check on him, accompanied by his future son-in-law, Robert, who is initially reluctant to go. Upon arriving at the scene, fortunately, Bernie has not suffered any serious injuries. He manages to get out of his vehicle, filled with overwhelming anger. Determined to find whoever is responsible, Bernie grabs a knife and a fully loaded rifle. Meanwhile, Sasha, who continues to wait for her father's return, becomes increasingly worried. A local resident named Bob then tries to argue with the visitors. He tells them that there is something in their village that many people do not know about. Bob then recounts an incident that occurred 12 months earlier, when a car was found wrecked and abandoned on the side of the road, while the couple who had been inside it disappeared without a trace. Back to Bruce and Robert, who are still trying to locate Bernie. In the middle of their search, a massive figure suddenly emerges from behind the trees, leaving both Bruce and Robert terrified. Seeing a boar of such enormous size, Robert, without any sense of mercy, shoves Bruce aside and runs as fast as he can to save himself. Bruce, unable to believe the actions of his future son-in-law, gets back on his feet, only to find the monster already prepared to devour him. Bernie arrives at the scene and witnesses Bruce being brutally torn apart. Acting quickly, Bernie fires his weapon, causing the creature to roar in pain before retreating into the darkness. Meanwhile, Robert, who has already returned, looks utterly terrified as he shouts toward Ella, urging everyone to leave immediately and save themselves. However, Debbie, not seeing Bruce anywhere, begins to question Robert and asks about her husband's whereabouts. But just as Robert tells her that Bruce is dead, he is suddenly attacked from the side.
He's dead!
He's saying... What did you say?
Watch out! Ella, we got Sky!
Bernie, arriving in time, swiftly leads the remaining family members away. They run in the opposite direction and cross a river. Even as night begins to fall, they are still unable to rest, having found no place that feels truly safe. And then, upon reaching another area, they hear the sound of the creature growling from behind them. Realizing that Bart has been dragged away by the creature, Bernie is forced to take Debbie with him, who is still in shock after witnessing her family's deaths. During their escape, they discover a small cabin, where they are finally able to hide for a while. In that situation, Bernie tries to comfort Ella, who is still overwhelmed by deep grief after the deaths of her father and brother. However, to Debbie, everything that happened that day is Bernie's fault, as it was his idea to take the trip that ultimately led to this disaster. Debbie also lashes out at Bernie, blaming him for failing to save his own nephew, despite his large physical build.
Bernie, we don't have a gun! Get my boy! It's to my boy!
I'm so sorry, Tim.
Poor Bernie as well, who could have never imagined that there would be a boar as large as a rhinoceros in that place. As midnight approaches and the surrounding air begins to grow cold, Bernie takes the initiative to look for firewood to build a campfire. He asks Debbie and Ella to keep watch from inside the cabin, while he goes to gather wood not far from their location. However, just as Bernie is about to step outside, the monstrous boar suddenly appears. This time, Bernie is forced to fight back in order to give Debbie and Ella a chance to escape. Despite fighting with all his strength, Bernie ultimately has to surrender in the battle. Meanwhile, Debbie and Ella, having traveled a considerable distance, decide to stop and rest. They build several campfires, hoping the flames will prevent the monster from approaching them. But not long afterward, the creature appears again, this time with its body covered in blood. Realizing that the fires they made cannot drive it away, Debbie and Ella can only brace themselves while swinging their torches at the creature. With a single attack, both of them are knocked to the ground. After that, the creature clamps its jaws around Ella's leg. In the midst of the panic, a beam of light from a vehicle suddenly appears from behind them. It turns out to be Sasha, who is searching for her father, who still has not returned. Upon witnessing the horrifying scene, Sasha immediately tells Debbie to grab the weapon from the back of the vehicle. Debbie, having lost so many members of her family, finally releases all her rage by shooting at the creature. After making sure that the monster is truly dead, the three of them quickly leave the area. However, their steps suddenly come to a halt when they see Bernie and Bart, badly injured, slowly walking toward them. It turns out that the creature did not kill Bernie and Bart right away. Instead, they were deliberately kept in its hiding place to be consumed later. From there, the three of them move on with feelings of relief and happiness, having survived the terrifying disaster. Yet, without them realizing it, there is still another monstrous boar, far larger in size, silently watching their departure from afar.